It is the Anfield Wrap in association with Peloton. I am Neil Atkinson, and joining me is John Gibbons, is Sean Rogers, and is Ian Salmon. And we're going to get stuck into, well, quite varied things around expectations and basically how you should or shouldn't run a football club with an eye on transfers in January, transfers next summer, contracts coming all the way through. That is all to come. But before then, we are partnering with Peloton, who are the official digital fitness partners of Liverpool Football Club as well. And John, you've been on this week. How's it gone?
Yeah, really good. Yeah. But I had a couple of goes on it. Got on it on Monday after the last show. And
who's your instructor?
Just I mean, I like to mix it up. Do you know what I mean?
I'm a one man woman or one woman man. I'm not quite sure which way it goes.
Well, I'm just sort of trying different things, trying different people. I want to get on the live classes. That's be sort of the next thing I want to do. But at the moment, so I've just been doing like the intro sessions and stuff like that. And I want to start exploring the other stuff because I didn't realise until we started the partnership that obviously it's much more than a bike, and you can do running and yoga and stuff like that. So a couple of people have and one nice thing about it is how many subscribers and listeners got in touch with me talking about Peloton and how much they enjoy it and how much sort of being part of the Peloton community sort of means to them and things like that. But the guided runs, I'm being told I need to sort of get involved with and stuff like that and run through different areas, and apparently once you start with them you won't look back, so that's something I'm sort of looking forward to. So I'm not tying myself down. I'm looking to explore as much as I can, literally and metaphorically.
And we're doing some cycling on it this week as well.
Yeah, so Zoe's place, who obviously we've been supporting for a long period, and people will know, have recently secured a new home, which is amazing, but they do still need ongoing support for the ongoing running of Zoe's place in Liverpool. So at the moment, a load of people, including Adam Rowe, have gone out to India and are doing a big bike ride. I think Billy Butler organises it every year. They go to different places. They're going over to India. We're not going to India. We're going to do it here.
Shows to do.
So we're going to do it between us here on the Peloton, because like you say as well, Neil, we've got shows to do. There's a league to win and stuff like that. So it's 450 kilometres over 6 days. So it's still going to be a big operation. You were talking about it upstairs, Neil, like basically said, does someone need to be on the bike now? And to that I said, well, we're starting tomorrow, but there will be various conversations over the next few days saying, does someone sort of need to be on the bike now? So we're going to split it into do sort of a bit of a vote on it and do it between us. But like I say, yeah, it's going to be fun because it's going to get a few other people on the bike as well who've not been on it yet and getting used to it. But I'm looking forward to seeing where I can cycle. Maybe you can just do India. You probably can. So there we are.
It's all on there, all the way through. Loads and loads of different themes that you can find with Peloton, and you can download the app and you can see the LFC theme classes as well. There's also an offer on Find Your Push, Find Your Power, with up to £500 off selected Peloton Bike Plus and Tread packages at onepeloton.co.uk. That is an offer that ends on the 9th of December. Internet connection and Peloton all access membership at £39 a month is required. Terms apply, and you'll see them on onepeloton.co.uk. As I said, we had Sean Rogers and Ian Salmon, but I will come back to you first and foremost, John, because you just said there's a league to be won. So have your expectations changed? Do you think the internal expectations have changed?
Yes, and yes, I think mine certainly have. I didn't go in with... When I say I didn't go in with any expectations, that sounds negative, and I don't mean to be that, because I thought the squad was good. I was impressed by what I saw in person and on the telly from sort of pre-season, and so I thought we'd do well this year. But what well was, I sort of hadn't quite sort of defined in my head, really. But whatever I thought well was, this is better than that well, I think it is fair to say. And so my expectations have changed, because I think it's come together a lot quicker than what a lot of us thought we would. I think the points we've got right now is above par. I mentioned on the free show last week that we'd caveat that slightly by the Andrew Beasley stat, which is the game by game, we're actually exactly sort of the same. So when you talk about par, you need to be conscious of that. But I still think in terms of points of the season, we've got more points than I think anyone would have sort of predicted. And also I think the opposition, you do need to. I don't think it's tempting fate too much to just say that Arsenal and City haven't done as well. Arsenal have had a lot of drama and sort of dropped points where you necessarily weren't expecting. They've had good wins as well, if a big derby win and sort of stuff like that. But and did they beat City?
No, they drew City, but it was a good performance.
Yeah, good performance, 10 men and stuff like that. And so they've done slightly better than sort of what sometimes is painted, but still the season looks like it's taken a lot of them out already. And then City have lost 4 games in a row, which is the first time since they were rubbish, the glory days, and so the good old days, and so all that put in makes me think that you just sort of have your expectations have to change. Your expectations have to be sort of a live thing based on evidence, and the evidence is growing all the time that this could be a really good season for Liverpool. And I think for internally, I think it'd be interesting to know if their expectations sort of have changed, or whether they just sort of set targets in the summer and go, right, that's that. And it can be a funny thing as well when you exceed expectations, because we're going to come on to it. January, it's in the agenda, and there's 2 ways of looking at it. There's one way, which I think as fans we'd like to, which is like, there's a league to be won here, let's throw everything we can at it, up to it, including getting some players in. But there's maybe another way, which sometimes you suspect FSG go down, which is, well, the squad's fine and everything's going great, why do we need to sort of spend any money? And so there's sort of being better than your expectations can go sort of both ways, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's a few of them going, aye, there's a bit more possible here than maybe what we thought, up to and including Arne Slot.
Sean Rogers, have your expectations changed, and what do you think the internal expectations have?
In terms of change, I think probably increased a little bit with me, and certainly internally. I think at the end of the season, irrelevant of the manager change, albeit that's an enormous variable, of course. Like, last season was mad in that I don't think there's, like, we look at a lot of the numbers and stuff on review, I don't think there's a stats bomb percentile for kidnappings and your manager leaving, with the mental toil of all that on top of a gazillion injuries and trying to compete on 4 fronts with all of that going on. So when the season finished, my view was, whoever the manager is going into this season, the biggest challenge was, how do you keep the attacking prowess and the resilience whilst improving the defensive metrics? Because you've really got to Goldilocks that. If you move that needle too far, then you're going to lose the attacking prowess. You're going to end up just walking around the ring with a guard up, aren't you? Covering yourself up, never throwing a punch if you're not careful. So that was a challenge, because in 22-23, some of the defensive numbers weren't good enough. And even last season, we were miles off City and Arsenal on the underlying defensive numbers, like clear shots conceded, counter-attacking shots per game, XG per game. So many areas of the defensive areas, in and out of possession, transition, just needed to improve. So as long as the manager didn't come in and go full-on David Moyes or Graham Souness behind the scenes and get everyone's backs up, and unless there was some kind of mad injury crisis, I thought we would definitely qualify for Champions League, pretty much be nailed on for third, worst case. If you want to compete for the title, though, I think you need to improve in those areas. And the issue is, once you get past this break now, there isn't any time on the training pitch at all, especially if Liverpool are going to go through in the Carabao Cup and start well in the Champions League. So he had very limited time. Obviously, didn't have the players this summer, so it was going to be probably a lot of verbal stuff, and on the players, like the players in their own time on the training ground have to accept a lot of responsibility, and I think they deserve enormous praise as well, as do Jurgen and the various sporting directors we've had, for leaving behind not just such a great squad of players, but the culture. That is the main thing. Is that, if you believe what players say in interviews, which is always dangerous, McAllister seemed that he wasn't 100% certain on competing for the major trophies, whereas if you hear Mo Salah's talk, he's like, we've got like one of the best 3 players in the world in almost every position, so why shouldn't we be going for it? And I think when the new manager comes in, them first impressions are obviously massive in terms of what he does and how he deals with them on a day-to-day basis in a workplace. So having seen what we've seen, I think that there still needs to be more progress if we're going to compete for the league. Like, he's improved the defensive metrics in every area apart from clear shots conceded. And just to be really statty about it, no one has won the league in recent history that concedes more than like 8 shots per game. Even when we win the league, we're phenomenal and then because we've won it so early, we fall off a bit of a cliff, which distorts the number.
And the pandemic as well.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying you're conceding less shots per game because you're that good defensively. What I mean is that's the result of so much dominance with and without the ball. So if you want to win the league, you've got to be that dominant. The teams can barely land a glove on you, and that's why you're pinging 90 points plus, because you're not coming off the rails. You can't with those kind of metrics. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, Liverpool concede an average of 10 shots per game. Last year, Man City are like under 7. Consistently, when they win the league, they're under 7. So I think Liverpool can improve. I think they will improve. But if you want to win the league, they need to improve.
Have your expectations changed, Ian? And do you feel as though their internals have?
I'm kind of on the no and no side of things on this one.
I was going to say for the first one, you're the wrong man to ask.
Well, I expect
Ian thinks we're winning Eurovision.
I don't even count Eurovision as a contest. I expect a top 2. That's what I expected. I mean, I can repeat myself from previous shows. The things that no stats will give you is what the death of the dream does to you, and that was what killed us at the end of last season. The death of the dream and the idea that we were going to win all 4 for Jurgen going away. No stat will tell you what that does to your mentality, and I think the end of our season was so mentality based. The thing I've said a load of times is that the squad that we have hasn't changed. We've got an Italian lad in who I've seen him play. He had a really good shot, hit a half volley that looked gorgeous, but since then seems to have disappeared. We've not changed. We're the same squad that we were when we were top of the league and in every competition at the beginning of April. That squad had the capability to do everything. This squad still has the capability to do everything. And there's been enough talk come out of the club that their attitude at the beginning of the season has been, let's win everything. There's been a couple of players come out and said it publicly, let's win everything is what they've been saying behind the scenes. So I don't know if they had that as an expectation or a dream, but you don't allow a player to come out and say that unless it's there as an absolute certainty from the rest of you that your intention is to win everything this season. So I think Richard Hughes has had more idea of what our manager was capable of than any of us have had when he came in, which is why he's given them the job, and he's been shown to have great foresight and great vision in what he's done there in terms of bringing the slot in to actually carry on, but as Sean's just been saying, to make the defence stronger at the same time. And I don't know what he expected at the beginning of the season, because we've got to remember he starts the first game with Kwanzaa as a centre-back. And it's only because he's not winning or because we're all not winning our battles, that he brings Canate in, and Canate's suddenly turned into at least the second best defender in world football at the moment, if not possibly slightly better than Virgil at times. He's, I think the expectations were, have a good season, and that's where we are. And we were talking a few weeks ago about the 7 games that were upcoming that would define how our season would go, and we've got a really tough task up until the international break. And I was looking at going, we've got a really tough task up until the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and we have to treat that whole thing as one entire stretch. We've done the first part of it. We've now got 4 games to show us exactly how good we are. I think we're very good.
It's going through this, John, that therefore, there are still variables. First and foremost, one is what does constitute a good season from this point, but another is, there's the returning players now from injury as well. And we've seen in the past that's not as straightforward as, the back, it's great. Rhythm becomes a question. You've got to sort of find a way to integrate them. But we will need them, to Ian's point and Sean's point. When you look at that run of games, the training time he's going to have, the toll it's going to take on them, they will need to find a way, those returning players, won't they, to reintegrate themselves. The goalkeeper is the one that you think should be relatively straightforward, but the others just finding a little bit of a role in there as soon as possible. And then, we've got individual players who are on their own journeys this season. Jones, recently with the international stuff, Gravenberch, Canate, keeping those players absolutely flying as they have been for us as well. This is one of those these are good problems. I'm describing a lot of good problems, but they are still things that will need to be, if not solved, but continued.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think in particular, Elliott, when you were talking there, I was thinking we could do with like quite a quick impact from him when he does come back. You know, the injuries took a little bit longer than...
But he had the full pre-season.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So he's worked with the manager, so he knows what he's wanted, but he'll be a little bit frustrated with how long he's been out for. He obviously would have got games if he was fit in the last run. So we had to be a little bit patient at first, and then he gets the injury when the games are coming, you know, quicker and where rotation would have been a thing. I think, you know, if he's apparently back running and stuff like that, so we're hoping for some good news in the press conference before Southampton that he's sort of, you know, ready to be part of squads. And I think if he's someone who can hit the ground running and, like you say, Neil, he's done enough with the manager to know what he's sort of after. He could be a real key player for us in this run because he'll have the freshness, but also his versatility. The fact that, you know, is he someone who's able to give Mo a little bit more of a rest, especially with you know the unknowns around Chiesa. You know, in certain situations, that attacking midfield role. You know, it's Szoboszlai hasn't exactly grabbed it in total so far this season. I think that is, you know, completely sort of fair to say, and Curtis has done really well, like you say, but I think naturally we'll want to play a little bit deeper in maybe one of those two roles, and you know, we'll still get plenty of games, you know, in there being okay, free going into two, with Endo being the fourth if need be. And so there's a lot of time. There's both potentially a lot of time on the pitch for Elliott, but also, you know, his impact. He was our best sub last year, you know, by a mile. Really, the player who was coming on. And listen, we haven't needed to win many games off the bench so far this season because, you know, we've been winning them with either with what's been on the pitch or half time. So I was kids. Sean Rogers smiled. Half-time tweaks that the manager sort of done. You know, they've solved any problems sort of themselves, really. But having someone who can come on and be explosive like he can be, and you know, create things, sort of score goals, you know, will be a real asset coming into these sort of big games. And so he can give our season a bit of a boost. And listen, it doesn't need a massive one, but, you know, he is someone who you can really see sort of making an impact if he can come back close to what we saw last season.
It's from here, Ian, in terms of meeting these goals, that I think you've been very clear about there, the idea of top two, and that remains, you know, something for them to keep their eye on. I think that there is therefore going to need to be, I think, really strong management in this run. You said all the way up to the third round of the FA Cup. That is January the 11th, the third round of the FA Cup. If they beat Southampton, there's a League Cup semi-final first leg that comes in. If they beat Southampton in December, yes, there's a League Cup semi-final first leg that comes in between the game against Manchester United and that third round of the FA Cup game. So that is, as Sean said before, that is a game every 3 days, every 3 or 4 days max. That's what they're going to be going for, and I think the fitness of them is going to be a defining factor. John's criticised. He's really stuck it to them. It'll be all over Blue Sky. Our rivals earlier on, not on Blue Sky, it's too nice. Our rivals earlier on, you know, really put the boot into Manchester City and Arsenal. Maybe clip it, you know what I mean? For bounce. They're a reasonable crew, the Arsenal and Man City. No. The point
I'm
being
just sceptical whether they want to know, Neil.
Well, they might not want to know, but they've just not looked fit, and they've had injury issues. The point being is that, you know, it's a defining factor. We've had our own couple of injury issues. That's what we're talking about here. But it is worth just sort of dwelling on. Managing the fitness of these players through this run is arguably challenge one ahead of absolutely anything else.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, as Sean was saying before, last season when we were competing on 4 fronts, we were competing with a squad that had about 5 or 6 more players that we actually used. So most of the kids that we used, most of the kids who ended up playing in the Carabao Cup final have gone. Yep. So we've moved on so many players that just aren't there to be used at the moment. I know, obviously, Jayden Danns is still with us, but is injured, I believe.
He's coming back from an injury himself,
So don't know when he'll be back. The whole thing about injuries, that, you know, Arsenal have been whinging endlessly, and this has been one of the great things about deserting Twitter. I'm not seeing anybody whinging about injuries on any social media at the moment. It's a lovely, lovely thing. But Arsenal have complained bitterly about the amount of injuries they've got. They've generally had 1 or 2 less than us. You know, they come to play us and they've got everybody back with the exception of... Did Odegaard play against us?
No, they had no Odegaard and Saliba was suspended.
Yeah, so they were missing 2, we were missing 4. Well, I've checked, and 4 is twice as many as 2, just on basic mathematics. So,
but what I would take issue with there, Ian, is 2 do get injured during the game, and when I'm watching City are picking lineups that on paper you go, that looks like a strong lineup, and then you go, oh, hang on, 3 of them can't run.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit. There is.
And I don't know who 2 of the others are.
But there is, and I don't know. And I don't know 2 of the lads on the bench.
Yeah.
I think there is a bit of a thing where when I have been watching Arsenal and when I have been watching City, we've seen it in the past. You see players playing. I'm sure there's been a couple of Liverpool players this season, don't get me wrong. Like, I refuse to believe Mo Salah is ever fully fit, given everything he puts himself through in every single way. But he's obviously Mo Salah and he's like a robot and sorted out. My point is that when I've been watching Arsenal and watching City, both of them to me, and this is where we can't get to, because that's when you do get a bit of an injury crisis, they do look to me like they're picking lads who just do not look 100% fit a lot of the time. And then before you know where you are, Gabriel's down with a knock, Timber's got cramp in the game against us, can't complete the 90. And I think that's my, to be fair, point to both of those squads off the wear and tear. But we've had it in the past.
I've got to say, I'm literally just extending the same amount of sympathy to them as they have done to us historically. So,
and everyone has, exactly,
basically.
Yes.
But we need to be on top of the fitness of the players. It goes without saying, but this is one of the things that Slot's been brought in for, isn't it? This is one of the things he values in himself and in his team, and his fitness and, oh God, what's the word? I can't even think of the word. It's not coordination.
Conditioning.
Obviously. Conditioning. See, still post-COVID, words just disappear. His fitness and conditioning coach is one of his biggest assets. He's talked about him so often that he's there to make sure we've got the availability. And he trusts his team so much that he's been willing to let those extra players that we needed last season go, because he believes he can work with 24, 25 maximum. That's all he needs. And he will have 2 players in every position, and he can work in that manner. So keeping the players we've got fit is massive. You can't legislate for some grok falling on Diogo Jota at least twice a season. You can't get away with that. But it goes without saying, it will happen again. Massive
things falling on his head.
These are new requests for like Stats Bombs radar profiles, estimated future events.
Rocks falling.
Expected anvils.
With ton written on it.
And you also can't legislate for sending Harvey Elliott away with England and getting his foot broken.
Those pricks.
So, but except that has happened to us so many bloody times over the years. But if we're doing our job at the moment, the one I worry about at the moment is Gravenberch, because he's played more football than he's probably played in like the last 4 years, possibly combined. And he's so crucial to what we do at the moment that we need to preserve that.
Just to sort of sum it up though, Sean, on the idea of the tough run. It's a tough run for Arsenal as well. Arsenal are in the Carabao Cup with a quarter-final on the horizon that they can reasonably expect to win. A home game against Crystal Palace, so they should find themselves having a similar sort of schedule as was being described. City are out the Carabao Cup, but apart from that, they've got a relatively tough run as well, got a couple of difficult games. Arsenal's run, in terms of who they're playing, on paper at least looks a little bit easier. But the same challenge still applies, and I'd argue the one thing that is in our favour at the minute, to my point around looking at players either starting or coming on, they looking tired, looking a little bit injured, is that I feel as though we are starting for once from a higher base in terms of managing these players through this difficult run. Often it's felt like our rivals are fortunate enough to start at a higher base because they haven't just had a grok fall on them or words to that effect. This time it does feel a little bit like, at least for now, we are starting from just a slightly higher base before what is a tough run for everyone.
Yeah, Guardiola regularly gives a lot of his players more time off in the summer, brings them back late, and they sort of nurse their way through the first part of the season, don't they? And then finish like a steam train always, January onwards, without wanting to pop the balloon. I think City are at a massive crossroads now, in that if you purely look at the underlying numbers, they're terrifying. City's underlying numbers suggest that this is their blip. It's going to be extremely difficult for anyone to finish above them. However, some of the stuff going off the pitch makes me wonder whether those underlying numbers could actually dip. So, as an example, on XG goal difference in the league, they're top. You look at most of the other attacking defensive metrics, they're matching previous seasons. These are spells in games, like you say, Neil, that I think are down to a bit of personnel and probably legs. And this might just be a bit of a circuit breaker for them, this international break and helping. However, the manager might be leaving. We know what that's like. We've got the manager openly in press conferences for City almost calling out unnamed players, thinking they either should be playing more could play when they're not. It doesn't seem that happy account.
Everyone's another year older. That's the other thing that I just keep coming back to. And there's players you've been saying for a couple of seasons. At some point, he goes off a bit of a cliff, and it's not happened. But
and as good as Liverpool were in 1920, what it does do is say to them early, "Can you go the well?" And not just can you. This wasn't like what Arsenal have done to City, where it's like, "Can you win the last 10?" What Liverpool did in 1920 was go, "Right, you need to be on this now for the next 25 games. Have you got it in you?" And I think that's where Liverpool need to really keep the revs up now, because if City's underlying numbers stay as they are, everyone in this league has a problem. So the question is, can you break them in a different way by keeping the pressure up and the revs up on them? Because they've still got to sort out everything they're doing in the Champions League too. And I think for Liverpool, the thing that I hope we do, which we could do if things go well, is it looks like we're going to have a core 15, 16-man group that will be very interchangeable. So,
which is quite City.
Yeah, and I don't think people are like this, but I wonder whether Slot needs to have a conversation in this run and go, listen, I might, irrelevant of the scoreline, have to start making changes on 60. I might have to bring 2 or 3 of you on between 60, 70 minutes because this is game recover, game recover, game recover, game recover. So, he's probably got to pick his Man City team. And then in the Madrid game, you're probably going to have to make 5 subs, I think, fairly early, to give yourself the best chance of beating Manchester City. But that doesn't mean you still can't perform against Real Madrid, because we've got so many top players. So like you were talking about Harvey Elliott before, he could easily slot into the Szoboszlai role in a load of different ways.
Yeah.
But when Liverpool's press isn't quite right, Szoboszlai's been the one sprinting back, making the slide tackles and getting stuck in and being that third man midfielder.
And you can't see that from Harvey, can you?
He's got the will.
Just not the speed.
So have I, but neither of us have got the body. He's closer than me, to be fair, in terms of being able to do that.
So like when you want to go away and you think, "Oh, just start feeding little things to the missus now." Do you know what I mean? Or your partner or whoever it is. You say if he wants to take Mo Salah off against Real Madrid, he needs to start. It needs to be like a 2-week.
I think I'd have a conversation in June. If the draw hasn't been, and I wouldn't, and I'd be going, "Look, Mo, I know the grown-up thing to do is face to face, but I can't get in the office today. We're gonna have to do this on the phone."
You're like that, Virgil. You come and sit in this.
Yeah, I'd have Virgil and Canati sat either side of me, and not at my own house either.
Okay, I want to move on and have a bit of a chat about it's a big question, but at the minute, to sort of set up the conversation around the contract and around the squad building, almost what's the best way to run a football club. Doing the book, when I was reading, John, I was sort of reminded of the days of Mahmoud Dahoud, where there was a summer where Liverpool were really pursuing him, and then they just stopped. And it was as though a decision had been made just to go in a different direction. I think the emergence of the fullbacks was a big part of that in terms of how they were going to play. And I think at times we think as supporters, not least because they're given these roles and these titles and we know they earn good money, and we're told repeatedly, by so many different people now, you've got to get your structure right. They're the most important people at the club. So I think we think that there's a master plan. Like, they've got a master plan that they're working to, and they've got to get the bits to fit in place. And I'm more and more thinking about it, feeling as though it's a conversation about, yes, principles, yes, ideas, but that a lot of this is a constant series of compromises. And that's what we're getting to see play out live. And maybe if we look at our rivals, Man City, Arsenal, in a bit of a dispassionate way, we get to see those compromises maybe a little bit better, a little bit clearer. And when we look back at Jurgen, we get to see compromises that Jurgen made, him changing what it was that he was going for. Like, can we analyse this in an era that is post-sporting directed? So we're not talking about Shankly or Paisley here, that is post-sporting directed and stay instead. There's what people want to do, and there's the principles with which they want, and the football that they want, but there isn't like a big board somewhere and they're either succeeding or failing against it.
Yeah, I think how they'll want to run the football club and the words you use there are principles, fundamentals, sorts of things like that. There'll be a way that they, FSG were talking about here, and the people who are involved at the top day to day, that they think a football club should be run, and how they think success is met. And it wouldn't surprise me that if you were to ask them, well, what footballing mistakes have you made during your ownership? 90% of them would say, well, we didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have enough players. And I think that's the key. We didn't have eno it wouldn't surprise you if they said that was when we went against, what that sort of was. That was when we either chased something short term or was tempted by a shiny signing sort of or whatever and went for it. I mean, there's not been too many examples of that, but do you know what I mean? I think it's where they maybe feel like, no, we knew something wasn't quite right, but we overly listened to the manager because, we wanted to please him sort of in that moment. And maybe that was Jurgen Klopp at his most sort of, highest in terms of his kind of, reputation and status and sort of stuff like that. It was telling to me that when, for example, when Jurgen left, they went back to Michael Edwards a little bit cap in hand and said, listen, will you sort of come back now? And, it was well documented, I don't think there was a massive falling out, but there was maybe sort of a bit of a power struggle and they backed the manager because I think they sort of felt like they had to. And it wouldn't surprise me if they felt that, on reflection, that was maybe a little bit of an error and they should have sort of been, not necessarily said, right, Jurgen, you're off, but maybe sort of, had a little bit of a sort of a different approach, really, because Jurgen ends up then taking on too much, and then a year later he's burnt out and he's sort of got to go. And so this is what I mean about like principles and about kind of like ways that you think a football club should be run, and they get tested sometimes. They get tested by circumstance. They get tested by, human behaviour. People sort of wanting different things. Ego, whatever it is, it might be. And I think they'll feel like that when we sort of stuck to our guns, and this is the interesting thing where it comes on to, and you're going to come on to the contract, so I won't jump the gun too much, but does sort of leading into that really is how much are they willing to stick to their principles and how they think a football club should be run, even if they have to know that there's a risk then that all three players go. And that's not to say that they decide, they all need to go because we've got these principles, because principles aren't an amount of money, do you know what I mean? They're not sort of a contract negotiation. Hopefully they can sign within, the sort of the structure that they want, but are they sort of willing to bend, or do they think that they know we need to be steadfast on this because we know in the medium and long term this is how we sort of, get success, even if short term there is sort of a little bit of pain. So the contracts are sort of into that. But I think generally, and listen, I think the things that they'll be able to point to that they haven't necessarily done well enough as, where mistakes sort of on the pitch have been made, I think they'll feel it's when they've gone away from them.
Is there not though an argument at times, I'll come back to you before I bring Sean and Ian in, that sometimes when you run a football club, you've got to make a short-term decision because you've got something to sort now, and also there's an opportunity there now. This to me is one of the things that's now I would think to an extent be resonating in amongst the football club, where we're all in this to win. If you see what I mean, like sometimes something opens up and the opportunity to win is there. For instance, we can talk about whether or not we think they should buy someone in January, but that's sort of an extreme case. You can talk about a really good example was Ferguson wrong to buy Van Persie? Now, there was other things that were wrong about Manchester United and what the successor inherited and the club and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But was it actually wrong to do Van Persie at the moment that they did Van Persie? Even though Van Persie then becomes one of the problems the other side. Like, it's how many problems you're going to bequeath to 2 years' time, if you see what I mean. So sometimes there is an argument, isn't there, to act in the short term. I think it's important not to act as though. And also, if you want to say you're going to be opportunist, which is something that we know has been said by Liverpool, sometimes your opportunity is a short-term opportunity.
Yeah, I think if they were here, they'd say, well, Manchester United were the richest club in the country and still are, and so they're able to go, we'll just go out and get the best forward and win the league. I think what they've always said is that we are not the richest club in the country, and we might be in the top 10 in Europe, but if we're going to beat the ones who've got greater resource, we need to do it differently, and we can't then say, we're going to copy them in certain instances because the sort of the opportunity is there. And so I don't think they feel that Liverpool are in a position to do a Van Persie, to do that, because that's what the richest clubs do, and you're relying on them making mistakes to then sort of beat them. Now, that I think that's their sort of position. That's not to say they'll sort of never do it. I think they did a little bit of that with Thiago. I think Thiago was a bit of a Van Persie. Now, would they sign Thiago again? I think probably not, to be honest with you, which is hard because I loved watching him play. But I think they would maybe look at that as one of those mistakes and say, well, we've got this sort of profile. But I think they will sort of change, within that, and we'll sort of adapt. And that's not to say that, it's our exceptions sort of can't be made. But I think, as I say, Manchester United were top dogs, by far the richest, and they could just go and take Arsenal's best player, and there's a power move in that I don't think they feel that Liverpool are in the position to necessarily do. So was it wrong for Manchester United to do that? No, but would it be wrong for Liverpool to do that now? Are different questions because they're different clubs.
They are different clubs, and it is a different question. And also, it's not like there's a Van Persie bouncing around the place either at the minute. On the compromises point, Ian, do you find watching a football club make compromises to be difficult? Because the football club wants us to live in the moment, is what I would say. So it's and this is one of the contradictions of football, and because a lot of the people who do these sorts of jobs very rarely speak or offer an insight, I think there's this situation where football clubs are determined to tell you that you've got to live in the moment, but people can see transfer windows on the horizon, they can see contracts coming up, they can and had seen with the contracts that we currently got even 2 years ago that there was a potential problem on the horizon. Rightly or wrongly, do you find watching your football club make compromises to be difficult?
Not particularly, because I spent nearly 30 years of my life in retail and managed retail shops. So I've basically managed multi-million-pound retail businesses for a long period, and it's economies of scale. So it's I was a small cog in a big company. This is the entire cog we're looking at for Liverpool. And I think while they will have a master plan, they'll have a mission statement, they'll have a vision of where they want to be in a decade, it is a business where so much of it is reaction and so much of it is unusual compared to other businesses, because a lot of you are trying to get the same assets at the same time. So you're literally trying to get X player. There are 10 of you trying to get this player. You physically can't all get him, obviously. That's unusual for most businesses. So there is, with any business, you're looking at a reaction to external events. And you're looking at capitalising on external events, or you're looking at covering yourself for external events. I think football is very much the same way in that. So I will put my business head on when I look at the business of Liverpool, and the idea that, for me, FSG, when people talk about FSG being bad owners and talking about the profit they're taking from the club, which they aren't, we exist as a tool for FSG to increase the value of their portfolio. And therefore, if they're good businessmen, we will be successful because that will increase the value of their portfolio. That is the top and bottom of their involvement with us as a business, from what I see, and I've not worked at this kind of level.
My concern with that, there's ways in which I don't necessarily disagree with that, but you will be able to say, for instance, that the value of Crystal Palace over the last 10, 15 years has increased, and Crystal Palace haven't won a fucking thing or look like winning a thing.
Yeah.
Like one of the external...
the value of Brighton has gone through the roof.
But Brighton, at least, you're able to look at, for instance, Tony Bloom's invested a great deal, borrowed money and all that sort of stuff. I think Palace are a better example in that. And as I say, Brighton have had a European adventure. Palace haven't even had that. I don't think it's... I think it helps the value of Liverpool increase if Liverpool are successful, but external factors have increased the value of a lot of other football clubs over the same period without them having been successful. At
the level that we're playing at, you need that success to become more successful. If you are Liverpool, being top four isn't actually sufficient to increase the value to the next level. So if you want to be Manchester United, if you want to overhaul Manchester United, if you want to get their sponsors in, sponsoring you for higher values so you can increase the value of the business higher, then you need to have the success, and you need to have the success on a global scale. So seeing them compromise doesn't worry me. And also I'm very aware that we're not privy to the conversations that are going on in the background. So we're talking about contracts now and saying they should have seen it 2 years ago. I'm sure they saw it 2 years ago, no matter which sporting director was in at the time. I'm sure they've been watching this for 2 years. And it could be, again, I know nothing about this. It could be they've known for the last 3 years, they've known since Trent signed his last contract that he will not sign another contract and he wants to go to Real Madrid. There's every possibility that conversation has been had so many times that there is no point having a conversation about contract with him. Or they know exactly what he wants. We don't know any of this. So I think that frustration with the club over contracts, we have no idea what the actual dealings are. I think sometimes as fans we have to accept that we don't know what the dealings are, and trust that the people who are doing the job, the people who brought in Arne Slot to be our manager, know what they're doing. So you brought in this manager, shows you know what you're doing in terms of bringing the manager in, so you probably know what you're doing in terms of other things.
I mean, you can say that, but you can then also look at other errors, and errors are made. There's no football clubs, but even the best football clubs that have ever been ran have been ran imperfectly. People have made errors.
And I was thinking while John was talking then, if you're FSG, you're probably looking at the moment where you gave Jurgen all the power you gave and basically became the figurehead for the club, which wasn't the model they wanted. They wanted a stronger sporting director with a coach working for them. This is what they've wanted since they went in. You're probably looking at it and going, wouldn't sign Darwin Núñez again. If we had the chance, we wouldn't sign Darwin because the value to the actual price hasn't been there for us. Probably looked the same at Keita. I think they certainly looked the same at Thiago. And I loved watching Thiago, but they would look at it and go, we didn't get value for what we paid.
In my role as pure devil's advocate at the minute, I think that Keita's a really interesting comparison with Anderson.
I thought you would.
Anderson at Manchester United, who a lot of people said was a waste of money, but was on the pitch for a lot of times where Manchester United won a lot of things. Someone has to be the 11th best player in any given team. I'm just devil's advocate all over the place here,
Sean.
Sean.
We could have done with Keita being on the pitch.
Oh, yeah, I think they would have signed Keita again, but with the same.
If they could have guaranteed, if Arne Slot could keep him fit.
There is with it, Sean. I sent you all three of you the top 20 transfers of the summer as rated by Transfermarkt, and this is some sort of combination that they've done in terms of the market value as when I did this, which was about a month ago, and the price that the player went for. So, for instance, Mbappe's top, but we know that he went as a free transfer. Osimhen's second, but we know he was a loan transfer, and so on. Just to sort of run through that list for the people who are listening rather than watching, but we will pop this on YouTube. It is from Transfermarkt. Alvarez, Douglas Luiz, Matthijs de Ligt, Dominic Solanke, Lenny Yoro, Pedro Neto, Moussa Diaby, Dani Olmo, and then you've got Endrick, João Neves, Amadou Onana, who I think is an interesting one, Michael Elise, João Palhinha, Coop Miners, João Felix, Desiree Diou, Ugarte, and Xerxes. A few there that ended up going to Manchester United. It's easy to sort of say, well, now you wouldn't have had Joro because he's not kicked a ball. If he signed for Liverpool, Sean, he might not have the same injury. The world doesn't work that way. But we can see, I think, the time that Konate has ended up having on the pitch, the idea that if they'd have signed Lenny Yoro and he'd have stayed fit, Lenny Yoro's now currently walking around saying, well, when the fuck am I playing? In there, we can see from how the way the manager's gone about his business, before you even get into whether or not he was offered mega money that from Manchester United that other clubs weren't prepared to do. João Neves, Michael Elise are ones, and I think also there's a time where you compromise by not compromising. So Zubamendi, it feels like they were very uncompromising, but they've compromised on the idea that they wanted an additional midfielder who could play the ball by virtue of what's gone on there. Now, is there a valid discussion of those 20 names that I've just given? And if you want to pull one that doesn't happen, by all means, that they should have happened, that we should have acted differently? Or do you look at those names and think, every single one of them for the circumstances around the deal, it was right that Liverpool weren't involved?
I think it's right that Liverpool weren't involved for a number of reasons. I think the only two that jump out to me, if Archie Gray was 8 million and not 18, possibly, especially with the situation with Trent, and obviously Pacho going to Paris Saint-Germain, if you take the view that you want 5 defenders, then maybe that's something you look at. I've got no doubt Liverpool will looking at them because I think there's probably quite a few players at Eintracht Frankfurt that a lot of top clubs will be looking at very carefully. I think if you think about the wider structure, so many top clubs are run badly that all the things John was saying and you and Ian were saying about Liverpool in the peak when we were winning everything and so well run. Well, what have you got? You've got an army of scouts feeding into a top scouting system. You got the data alignment, top sporting directors, and then senior management coming to the table. Because it's no good the scouts going, this is top player. The data guys going, this is brill. And then you sit down and Jurgen Klopp goes, nah, I know 5 lads who share the dressing room with him and he's an absolute arsehole. And the biggest thing that Liverpool were able to do is go, we have no bad eggs. If we have to have a hole in the squad, that's better than having a problem. So if you think about even Liverpool in the 80s, if there was an injury or suspension, Liverpool would rather go, we've got this top footballer who fits everything that we want, and he might just have to play in his plan B or C position for a month. And that's better than us having someone else here who's going to be kicking up a stink. And then when that moment in time comes, how do you know that player's going to be fit? And even if they're fit, how do you know they're going to be in form? To then hit the ground running. So it's difficult that I think Jurgen Klopp and FSG were both on the same page. It would be very frustrating in terms of when you talk about compromise. The compromise is not making some of the transfers that might make your life easier in a particular point of the season or whenever it be. But in the longer term and looking at it in the wider sense, you know, not every club has their data, the scouting teams, and everyone working in that way. And I think the big thing for Liverpool where they can make hay at the moment is because of the pathway from the academy. So rather than signing any of the players on this top 50 list, I think Liverpool should continue, and I'm made up that they do, in terms of the teenage recruitment. Because Liverpool have got an opportunity to go worldwide right now with the Carabao Cup videos still fresh in everyone's memory, and go, you have got a pathway here. You will be looked after both as a human being and as a footballer, and we will make you better than if you go anywhere else. And there is a pathway to this first team.
And also we'll sell you if need be as well.
And I think when City get rid of Guardiola, if they're sensible, they'll get a manager in who just gives them a proper pathway. It's starting now, even though they might not really want it because of the injuries. The only reason Liverpool have been able to sign these guys is because Man City don't have a pathway. Liverpool can go in with a portfolio of players and go, come to us and this is what happens. Go there and you're Jadon Sancho.
This is why we got Rio and Guma, if that's the right way to pronounce it.
But there might come a time in 2 or 3 years where lots of top clubs sort out their internal way that they run things, and let's say Manchester United maybe start running things a lot better than what they have been. And if Manchester City start giving a pathway to players, Liverpool and a number of other clubs have a massive problem in terms of that academy recruitment. And that's where, when you talk about gains, Liverpool can make, you know, getting Trey Naoni in, the signing of Rio in the summer as an example, and some of the other lads that have gone in there, they could be bigger than any of them 50 players that are on that list, as much as we like the transfers. And in terms of being opportunistic, we're talking about being opportunistic in a positive, successful way, in that it works. And you've got to work very, very hard for that. That means that Richard Hughes gets a phone call from an agent to go, look, new manager's come in, my player hates him, manager hates him, not getting on, we've got a release clause. They've got to be able very quickly to go through all the scouting reports over maybe a decade. Think how much hard work that comes in from all the scouts and collating that into the system, the data guys. They've got to be able to make snap decisions. But we're talking about them not being opportunists, go, sod it. I mean, that sounds cheap. Let's just do it. Like, we're talking about them being able to make the best decisions swiftly. And I think that does need a hell of a lot of hard work and a hell of a lot of compromise.
I think
You're taking any of the 20?
I mean, it's hard for me, to be honest with you, because there's a few. I don't watch a lot of European football, and so I have no idea how Olmo's doing at Barcelona. I've got no idea how Koopmeiners is doing at Juventus. But Neto's an interesting one to me because he, you know, you talk about opportunistic. I think Chelsea were a bit opportunistic with that. I don't think there was necessarily this big plan to get Neto. He goes quite late in the window, doesn't he? At 60 million euros. He's only got the one goal so far, but it's a big one, and it's an equaliser against Arsenal. It's a really nice hit. You wonder whether he would have been one who could have come in and been a really explosive player for us off the bench, as well as being able to sort of start games. And listen, it's not hard right now to be an upgrade on Chiesa in terms of what Chiesa has delivered for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And so he is one that they did buy. So they obviously felt that they could do with another forward option. He's one that's sort of come in. And listen, I'm not writing him off yet, but you know, if you're looking for me at a snapshot now, I think you know, Neto is one where you think, well, I'd love to speak to them and go, well, were you tempted? Was there a reason why you weren't? You know, I don't know what his wages are like at Chelsea. I don't know what the sort of the situation where there's obviously agents who are linked more with certain clubs than others because of ongoing relationships. And listen, that's something that Liverpool benefit from, as well as sometimes, you know, others. You know, is this one where this was just all sort of decided that he was sort of going that way? I don't know, but I think the thing with Neto, it was always his injuries, wasn't it? He's a wonderful player, but I don't wonder whether your manager's injuries like Chelsea seem to have, which is like, well, we just got fucking loads of players. So don't worry about it.
I was just going to say, I think if you agree, I don't know if you agree with me, I think there's probably 3 positions where you have to be opportunistic in an almost we break glass, and that's centre forward, centre back, and goalkeeper. You know, if the next Ian Rush, Erling Haaland comes along, you've just got to go and get him. You know, if you see someone that you think is possibly going to be the best centre-back of the generation, you don't just go, oh, well, we'll get the next bus that comes along. There'll be another one of them along in a minute. That's just not what you do. I think you have to go and it might be that Liverpool have done a bit of that I'm very conscious that Andy's sat to my right. But it might be that Liverpool have done a bit of that with Mamardashvili at Valencia. That they've taken a view that gone, he's not there now, but he's got a high ceiling, and he could be. And the timing doesn't quite work for us on this. But if we wait a year, there might not be another one that matches this. So we take advantage of that now. Because like on the striker front, I was looking at this the other day, that when United are winning their leagues, Andy Cole has got very similar data, goals and assists to Nunes and Jota. When Chelsea are winning their leagues, it's almost exact. Their goal per minute data is 160 to 170. Drogba, Cole, Nunes and Jota. And the assist data is very similar. In fact, Nunes would be better. Now, do you have a better chance if you've got Ian Rush or Erling Haaland? Yes, emphatically. But you can win the league with that type of player. So I think having one of them in the squad is fine, but if someone comes along where you're like, this guy's a goal in 90, then you've got to go and get him, because they just don't come along that often, do they?
Okay, I want to come back into this and into the context of it with the contract and the squad building. But before then, a couple of days ago, I talked to David Lynch about his Substack, and this is what he had to say. Neil Atkinson with Dave Lynch to talk about Dave's Substack, the season so far. How has he enjoyed the transition of Arne Slot and the transition of his own work? So you made the leap into the Substack unknown in the summer, Dave. How's it gone for you?
Yeah, pretty well so far. I mean, there is always a period when you start it where you're kind of panicking.
Yeah.
And I had that moment, because you do kind of just think naturally, oh, I'm sure people think I'm fantastic and they will all subscribe. But the reality is, you will know this, you've got to work at these things.
Yeah.
You do have to work at these things. And thankfully, it's just, it's in July or so I started it, and it's growing and growing and getting better and better. And I like to think as well the kind of offerings getting better as well. So there's a lot of different stuff on there. So and people seem to be sticking around, and it's growing. So yeah, going well. Kind of it did feel risky at the time, but it's starting to work out now, which is nice.
One of the things that you've been doing it since July. We're now approaching 10 years of this. One of the things that you are gonna become aware of is you are related to how well the Reds are doing, whether we all like it or not. Yeah. It's one thing to watch Liverpool and want them to win. It's another thing entirely when you begin to think to yourself, lads, it just help here. But you made that leap though at the same time. It's dead interesting to me because you did it at the same time as the new manager. So that's even more of a leap into the unknown. The one thing you knew with Jurgen, and also with you being in press conferences, you know what Jurgen gives you, you know the insight he'll be, you know what you can offer around that. Getting the new manager in, not just on results, but in the round. It was a risky time to do it.
Yeah, I think so, because this is it. Under Jurgen, you were guaranteed at least every other year a title charge. He's one of the most charismatic figures on planet Earth, and so you've always got a quote to kind of spin stuff off.
Say what you want.
Yeah, this is it. And you kind of you think with Arne Slot, he could come in and you don't know how it's going to work out. Maybe it's just a top 4 challenge this season. Maybe it's less than that, because it could have gone horrendously. We literally don't know. And he was never going to be as charismatic, so it was going to be completely different, and he didn't have that banker there. So it did feel a little bit risky, but fortunately what we've got so far looks like a title challenge, top of Premier League, top of the Champions League, and people want to read about that. And also, I would say that the upside as well of the change is that there are things I can do now in terms of, one of the pieces that went up this week was how things changed. Yeah. And that piece wasn't there to write, and sometimes with Jurgen, it did almost get a bit samey in terms of press conferences and things. So it's all kind of fresh and new. So maybe that's kind of worked in my favour. There's
a mystery to it, I think.
Yeah.
And even still now, there is a mystery to... We're getting to see the football, but we're only really seeing... I'd still argue, and that's why it is so exciting at the minute. I think we're only really seeing stage 1 or stage 2 of what he's about. I'm sure he feels as though there's more to come. He's now also lost some training time. He's almost now just game to game. At some point that changes, and I think you'll see a bit more again. And it does help that, whilst he isn't Jurgen in terms of always giving you the story or anything like that, he is, quite a compelling speaker. And he just comes across to me like he's desperate to talk about football.
Yeah, he's not a kind of charisma void, which you could easily have gone from one extreme to the other. He's kind of a nice middle ground, really. So he does give you something. And what he does give you, and this is, I find, is the stuff that people want to subscribe for as well, is kind of a bit more tactical insight. Yeah. Jurgen was a bit closed around that sort of stuff, whereas Arne seems to be quite happy to talk about that stuff in depth and gives us better understanding if we can communicate that. People want to read that kind of stuff.
It's a funny thing with managers because, for instance, the way he talks about the injuries is much more closed than it was with Jurgen, and Jurgen was relatively closed. I think people sort of think that there's some sort of catch-all with managers, and I always thought Jurgen got a bit of a hard. Well, I used to like it when Jurgen was asked tactical questions because he would give those answers to a degree. But as you say with Slot, he does go much further, and I think that with Jurgen maybe people sort of stopped asking him a little bit because he would sort of draw a bit of a line and go no more than this. Whereas with Slot, I think he is just really happy and really open to talk, and I think it just helps with the general understanding of the game.
And the thing was with Jurgen as well, it was so easy to get a newsy line out of him that you would just go down that route because he would give you a line on vaccines or literally anything. He'd want to talk about that stuff. And we did actually see as well with Pep Linders with the book the criticism that he got unfairly, I thought, about talking about some tactical concepts. I mean, the thing is when Slot talks about this is so surface level. Any amateur analyst can see some of the stuff he's talking about. Some of the deeper stuff I'm sure he will keep to himself and won't want to go into the detail there, but he's happy to talk about this surface level stuff because he knows that the Premier League analysts out there can swap this stuff in it. But for us,
in an hour, they can see it live.
Yeah, exactly. They can watch it while they're on Sky Sports. They don't even need to pan out to see this stuff. So, but for us, someone who I worked in football for a long time, but obviously not in that sense, in a coaching sense. So for us, this stuff seems really insightful and new, and so it is. It's different, but it's really, really interesting. I like that about Arne, that he's open in that sort of regard.
Top of both leagues, it has gone, I think, certainly as well as anyone could have hoped. I would argue it's probably gone a bit better than the vast majority of people expected. Liverpool, though, I think it was important, and it sort of got lost a bit in the noise of Jurgen leaving and the way that the previous season ends. Liverpool has, at worst, the third best squad of players last season, and that was at worst. We've seen there's a bit of tumult elsewhere at the minute. It seems to me, not that right now they're failed if they don't do the double, but it seems to me that I feel like I'm watching a team and a squad that's capable of going deep in Europe and getting a 90-point season. And I think that's your marker. That's not to say they will. They could go out in the last 16 in Europe. They might only get 78 points in the league. That's still possible. But that's what I'm seeing, Dave. We've been around now long enough to have seen what 90-point seasons look like, what 90-point teams look like, and to me, Liverpool couldn't do much more to suggest that they might be one. Yeah,
I totally agree, because the thing is as well is we say that Jurgen left a very good squad, and it probably was a 90-point squad. The reason it didn't get it last season was the injuries were absolutely catastrophic for large periods of the season. So you've got to think, how many points is that worth? Maybe it is worth sort of 9 points, and if you add that on, you're there. So I think it is a 90-point squad, and I think the big test of the manager, and one of the things that was really appealing to when they were appointing him actually, was the fact his injury record. It's him and his backroom team, so style of football and also preparation. His injury record at Feyenoord was extremely good in terms of getting players on the pitch regularly. So if that does bear fruit, I think you can already just add points on that basis. We know the quality's there. It's just about him settling in, which seems to have worked very nicely, and then getting fewer injuries. So I think there is a 90-point squad there, which, if you're Arsenal, for example, that's already quite worrying, because to be 9 points behind a 90-point squad, they need an uncharacteristically low total, I think, from this point. I think 9 points is a lot. So, I think for Liverpool, that's extremely encouraging. And I think you could say that, barring some things that we maybe would be surprised by in the season, or the injuries rearing their head again, if it is a 90-point season for Liverpool and this squad reaches its potential, then they're going to be right up there. And up there in Europe as well. I've been struck by, I think there's been underplayed, the European results a little bit. I think a teeny bit, because people still, I think, aren't quite sure how good AC Milan are, but since that game they've won in Madrid, people still aren't quite sure about Leverkusen, because they were, they felt like a bit of a shock last season. So where they sort of bed down into, we've seen a lot of Leipzig coming up against Manchester City down the years. So I understand why, it isn't beating Bayern Munich like Aston Villa did. But there is, I think, a little bit of a missed thing there, which is that Liverpool have done that in Europe, only conceded one goal, which was in the first 5 minutes against Milan. And I've done what they've done in the league as well. To me, that is the most impressive part. Is this stuff doesn't stand alone. You're playing these games every 3 or 4 days, and that's why I think they've been so impressive so far. Yeah, and they're kind of exhausting in terms of doing that repeatedly. As you say, you've got a midweek there, and it's a really tough one. And then it's kind of it's tactically different. It is a totally different test a lot of the times in terms of the styles you're coming up against maybe sort of 75% of the Premier League. It's very, very different sort of challenge, but just seem to really kind of take into it like a duck to water, the way that Slot is kind of really adapted to that challenge. Because think that's one of the bigger question marks around him, actually, is, okay, you're coming up to the big boy level now and playing Champions League with a side that is expected to kind of be up there. And he seems to really adapted to that well. And I think you've got to say, even people will play down your AC Milan, okay, it's a weaker league, same with Leipzig, but okay, that's true. But then if Liverpool are going to continually do this, where they blow away the sides who are from the weaker leagues, which is every league outside the Premier League, then Manchester City is probably their biggest threat in terms of the Champions League, and then maybe Real Madrid on top of that. But as you say, they already got beaten by AC Milan anyway. So I think what you're looking at, you should be hugely encouraged by that. It looks like a team that's going to go deep in Europe, and when you get near the end and the Anfield factor's thrown in and the kind of muscle memory of the players who have won this competition, that looks pretty good to me in terms of having a crack at Europe.
There we are. So it's all to come. It's a hell of a run that's coming up, worth being excited about. No one should take Southampton away for granted. They ran City close recently. The Etihad's only lost 1-0, but then it is the big games. It is Madrid, into Man City, into Newcastle, and into the last ever league derby at Goodison Park. So where do people find the Substack?
Yeah, so it's at davidlynch.lfc.co.uk if people want to check it out. And yeah, like I sort of touched on earlier, really, it's kind of an array now. The offer there is kind of, my aim for the whole thing is to kind of give someone information that they didn't know when they started reading every single piece, whether that be kind of, graphic statistical work or tactical analysis with screenshots, and then or the general kind of newsy insight, which is more my kind of bread and butter. I've got that real mix there, so hopefully people check it out and like it.
There we are. Do check it out and hopefully do like it. Thanks to Dave. Let's get back over. Great stuff from Dave. Do check it out if you get the opportunity to do it. So, in amongst these hypotheticals, looking at what's gone on, John, there with those 20, looking at where Zubimendi, what does or doesn't happen, and looking at let's be clear about this, there's going to be a shift in terms of the UEFA squad cost control at the very least. So it's all football costs. And it will be by 2025 a 70% limit. Liverpool in 2 seasons ago, 21-22 was 69% on the ratio. Last season they were 22-23 they were 71%. We don't have the numbers for last season as it stands. That's one facet of this. I'm just using it as an example because those things do matter. Where the cash is obviously matters. Liverpool are owned by who they're owned by. But also, though, I'll come back to it, winning matters. And I think that this is, to me, the winning also helps. It helps with the money. It helps with everything, really. But winning matters in terms of, well, this is what everyone who's surely involved in sport wants to be in it for, to some degree. Winning as Colchester United is different to winning as Liverpool, but everyone who's working at Liverpool's chosen to work at Liverpool. The people that bought Liverpool have chosen to do that. The people that play for Liverpool have chosen to do that. So working all this through, I think, in this sort of budgetary process, the contracts with the 3 players, then you've got Konate, Robertson and Kelleher, who are all out of contract in the year after now, and it's worth saying if we want to talk about this stuff, as Ian says before, it's 18 months now away from that one as well. That's got to be borne in mind, especially given the form of Konate and what we've done with the goalkeeper. Because of that, because the wages and the transfer fees now, I think we need to see it all in together. I think we're now long enough in the tooth with all of this. Almost, I'm saying to you, you're the sporting director, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult, isn't it? And, because they can talk about value and they can talk about, I can see what they're trying to do and we all know what they're trying to do. And it comes back to the idea of Mo Salah. We went up to Glasgow for the great live show at the weekend and we're on the way up there and we're talking about the contracts in the back because, you think about little else. Kev's like, give Salah the keys to the kingdom and stuff like that, and that's what we want as fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, give him instead of giving him soldiers' wages, give him LeBron shares. That's sort of where we're at because that's how much you love him. But these, Richard Hughes is in the situation where he's got a budget. He needs to get the most possible out of that budget. And in a funny sort of way with Salah, say we give Salah 350 grand a week, and next season he puts in performances of a 250 grand a week player. As fans, we're made up because we can't really see the difference in that. Do you know what I mean? If someone plays like a 250 grand a week player, he's fucking good. Do you know what I mean? And he's scoring a lot, and he's not maybe amazing every week, but he's looking sort of good. And we're going, great decision, made up, and we get to watch Mo Salah, which we love. So we got that emotional, that hit of endorphin just by watching him sort of in a Liverpool shirt. Whereas they're throwing all the numbers in and going like, I knew we shouldn't have done that. We're losing 100 grand a week here on where we could, and we could have used that 350 grand a week instead on different players. And yeah, there would have been transfer fees and stuff like that, but if the players are the right age, you back yourself to get that back and maybe more in the future anyway. So they see that as more of an investment, really. So they're thinking, actually, if we'd got this fella that the computer was telling us to and this other fella, look at what they're doing now, we could have actually got 400 grand worth of impact on the pitch, and now we're just getting 250. But as fans, Liverpool fans, we're going, yeah, but we're watching Mo Salah, it's brilliant. So they're making all these decisions based on output and trying to win, which is exactly what you say, Neil. And we're making decisions based on being sentimental old or young fools or whatever, and just thinking, well, this helps us win because look how many goals Mo Salah's scored and he's great and we just need more of him, and so get your money out your fucking wallets, FSG, and just get more Mo Salahs, and so we're coming at it sort of. We both it's like we both identify what we're trying to do, and we've both got the same aim, but we're coming at it from different ways, and I think that's almost sort of natural. And listen, you'll have some supporters who'll think a little bit more in that regard because they sort of enjoy it, and you'll have others who are just sort of all romantics and just want to watch boss footballers, especially ones who they've grown really attached to over years sort of playing. So it's hard. But to go back to your point before, Neil, on like, you know, the Van Persie thing and needing to be sort of pragmatic, you know, what I would say is, yeah, but you need someone to play. Do you know what I mean? And so you can't always... What happens if... You can look for value, but what happens if it's not there? So what happens if every player... So you say you want... Let's say there's a hard and fast rule. I don't know if this is true, but let's say there's a hard and fast rule that they want 20% more from each individual than what they're paying him. So if you're paying someone 100 grand, they've got to be giving you 120 grand on the pitch, and that goes sort of right the way through. Yeah. So it doesn't sort of matter.
But there's an argument, isn't there, that if you just say that basically, and I don't think this quite corresponds because not least because Man United fucking ruin it. But if you want to say that, you can say that there's a wage budget to league position thing that happens.
Yeah.
We know that we're likely to be playing one of the 3 biggest budgets. Maybe 4, but I think it is 3, and we need to get that plus X but we don't think we're number 1.
Yeah.
So we therefore to beat number 1, we need to overperform where that number is, and that's what your argument is here.
And we need that from each individual. And some people listening to this might say you can't do that. They reckon you fucking can. By the way, they'll you know.
Well, I reckon Man City think you can as well.
Yeah,
and this is a key detail.
Yeah,
so this is a key
100%.
detail.
So they know exactly. They know how many points they need, and they think they know how many goals they need to get there, and how they get those goals, and how that's spread across and stuff like that. Like they think they can win it all, sort of in that way. And listen, they don't think it's purely maths. They know there's other things. That's why they worked really hard and really attracted the coaching and sort of stuff like that. So, but they think largely, generally speaking, like, you know, from a signing point of view, you can sort of game it. But the problem is, for me, where it potentially breaks down, and where I don't want us to go to this to the nth degree, is if you like, is okay, Salah leaves and Virgil leaves and Trent leaves, Sam, because you think you're going to get more value, and then you go into the market. Well, what if every right forward wants more money than what you think he's worth? Like, are we just not going to buy one? Or are we just not going to buy a centre half? And you say, well, the value wasn't there in the market. Oh, brilliant! Well, there's a game on Saturday. You know, and so at some point you need to go, well, actually, well, either we overpay a little bit because we think, you know, you just fucking have to, or you fully commit to this sort of model and say right, all right, well, we'll play Jane Dan's up front, and we'll move Jota on right, and we'll wait till next summer when the value is. And at that point, that's an extreme example, but it you know, it's possible if you follow this to the sort of the nth degree, and that's where I feel like the compromise needs to be, because you need 11 footballers and they need to be good.
Back basically onto you have to win things to increase the value of the team, to increase the value of your portfolio. If you were to say, right, okay, well, next summer Mo's going, he's just going, and there is nobody out there that can replace him, and we are going to play Jota on the right until some grok falls on him in November and then does again in March. And we're going to play Jayden Dan's up front. You're not going to win things, and you're not going to increase the value of your portfolio, and you may have saved the wages, but you've just seen your entire investment drop in terms of value, which isn't what you're in the business for. So that, like you said, there has to be that moment where you go, right, well, this is the call that you make, and this is where we go. And this might be the one where you look at it and go, well, there's 3 players who want 350 grand, and we can do Mo for 2 years, and we can do Virgil for 3 years, and Trent really fancies Real Madrid, so there's the 350 grand a week that we were going to pay. We've saved that, and I've got a transfer fee in, but the money's coming in that way. So we're having to look at the whole pot in terms of the holistic approach to 70% of our turnover is the cap for what you can have on player spend. I don't think that's going to be the issue, because I think there are other things you can do, because this may be why we just sold a few of the youth team players that we had last season. We got decent money for some of them that they are looking this far ahead and going, right, well, this actually goes into the pot now. So you work the youth team in the same way as Chelsea or City have been doing it for quite a while. So you sell, you allow your Cole Palmer to go for 50 million quid or whatever he went for, and you move on with the next player down the line. That could be it. We didn't get to see Bobby Clark do what we thought he could do, but that's okay, because maybe Trainee only does it instead, because maybe we didn't need him for the next 3 years. So looking at those transfers, transfer pieces, those profiles, you look and go, well, there's a couple of players we could have possibly gone for, but if we'd have gone for Nana, 50 million for Nana seemed like a ridiculous price at the time, but it wouldn't have allowed Gravenberch to do what he's doing. And obviously Gravenberch was 50 million. We could have gone for Pedro Neto, but we know the injury problem, and he'd have been trying to play where Mo's playing at the moment, so that wouldn't have worked for this season. Maybe, and I'm not saying it is, but maybe the season away for Ben Doak might be the making of him, because he's looking spectacular for Scotland at the moment.
He's looking spectacular for Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I've not watched much of a Middlesbrough. And maybe the season away for Bajcetic means that we don't actually need...
We may never get him out to Middlesbrough, Ian. I think we need to...
They won't let him
we
go.
need to prepare ourselves for the fact that we might have to do some sort of incursion to get him out of Middlesbrough at this point, how much they're enjoying watching him. I think I mentioned Konate, just to sort of begin to sum up, Sean. I mentioned Konate, I mentioned Robertson, I mentioned Kelleher as well at the top of this. I think these processes, they are a little bit difficult, but I'll say again the key thing that matters to me, which is nobody's made these people take these jobs, and they're also being very well paid to be in amongst making these decisions. So whilst I've got, I'm happy to sort of always couch this with the obvious bits. But I think the other thing to point out as well, and I think that this is valuable, and this remains honestly my pressing concern for this season, is football is emotional, and they're running an emotional football club, and they're making money out of that emotional football club by virtue of what it does to a worldwide fan base and what it does to Anfield. They're making money. The club itself, is making money out of harnessing that and doing it well. But what it doesn't want to do is be overwhelmed by it. And I think the one thing that this club doesn't need is another emotional goodbye. It was tough enough with Firmino and Milner. It was obviously became horrendous last year with Klopp. It became a weight, I think, around people. And with any of those three, I think that that's one of the things they open themselves up to. Like I'm saying, that there could be on-pitch connotations this season if any of those three are going, by virtue of what it will whip up. I think everyone will try to act like, no, we're all very professional. Mo Salah would be a great example of it. But it just doesn't need that many setbacks, and I think we saw it last season where the emotional weight breaks.
Yeah, no point having a seat in your pants if you don't fly by it every now and again, and we're definitely in that moment in time now, aren't we? I'll caveat this because I don't think people are going to like what I'm going to say. I want all three players to stay. It's not my money. I love them all. I agree with everything that's just been said. But if you're Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards, we don't want anyone to be in their shoes that's going to walk in with their hands shaking with a pen going, please sign. You can have whatever you want. Because it's the De Gea problem at United. Yeah. And they go, have whatever you want. And then Marcus Rashford goes in and goes, have you seen his performances and what he's on? You're going to cough up big for me. He's a keeper, and you're paying him that.
Not real footballers, are they, Sean?
Of course not. Just little Sabutio things that fly between the 6-yard line and that. So, can I just move away from Andy?
You are sitting worryingly close to him, I'd say this, Sean.
I had the buffer of a chair.
I made a massive gamble that coffee's cool by this point.
I wasn't even sure I could look at Andy.
And the other problem is, I think too many footballers go into contract negotiations and they don't accept what they're actually going in for as a reward. And Richard Hughes has to go into that room and go, you're getting a contract for what you're going to do. I don't give a shit about what you've done in the past. I don't care. It's irrelevant. But it is to them. So being objective about this, the right deal for Mo Salah to sign is a pay cut with high bonuses. So you go, if you go and perform, you still get the big licks. But he's going to go, you're asking me to take a pay cut. So objectively, the right deal is, you're getting older, you're going to drop off at some point in the future. None of us know when that is. We're going to be very lucky that your contract is a month from expiring and all of a sudden you drop off then. That's the ideal world. Whereas the other problem you've got is 4 players, including Canate, want new contracts and all of a sudden they're playing better than they did at the end of last year. Now, there's loads of mitigating factors for that. But they have got something to play for right now. Canate, different player, fighting for a contract. Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, flying, fighting for contracts. Or for the next move. Trent is really difficult because of his age. Because if Real Madrid go, well, we'd have paid 60 million for you, they can offer him a signing-on fee, which means the money becomes a major, major problem. There isn't a resale value for Virgil or Mo for a European side in buying them. So when you're talking about money and all that, I think the Trent one. And also, if I was the agent for Trent and Virgil, I wouldn't have gone near contract negotiation until I know what Salah's offer is. And if I was Richard Hughes, I would do Salah last. So I think there is a big problem. Timing-wise, I'd be like, you're playing dead well. I'm going to sort Hughes 2 out, and then I'm sorting Mo. And if I was them, I'd be going, no. You sort Mo out, and then you sort us out. And I think that is the game of cat and mouse that is ongoing right now. And I think Virgil and Mo probably want to stay. Trent's probably the one that's probably a bit more 50-50 on it. But the other problem, if I'm Richard Hughes, there is a conversation about why should your right back be on top dough? From a performance metric with what you're like, I completely agree with you. You're going to put these players on this money. If the next Haaland becomes available and Liverpool come to the table, we need wriggle room on PSR on all the numbers. And he's going to come in and go, I'm going to score 40 a year for you. You've got a right back on 15 million a year, so you can give me 25, thanks. And it's going to be no deal. So I think objectively, when you look at how close we are as well on the UEFA percentages, there has to be an element for Virgil and Mo, I think, of them, and I'm sure they would be, but a bit of humility going. I'd be saying, if you think you're going to perform at the same levels and get the same dough, fine, take your performance deal and you'll get it. But that's really difficult because...
And they're already on performance deals now. Sean is what I would say. We know that.
I'm saying the needle moves.
Yeah, the needle moves even more, but they probably already have thought in the past. We're already on a tight one. We're already on a big performance thing now. So
I've got Leicester. It could have got because
elsewhere.
Of this.
And I've done this before already because it's Liverpool and this is what I'm in it for.
You put Virgil on 3 years, Salah on 2 years, and then 6 months' time they do a Fabinho. And I thought Fabinho's legs would go. I didn't think they'd go when they did. And obviously, we haven't got all the data and everything to hand on that. I think it's really, really complicated, and I think for Liverpool that because of where they're at, I think it probably does need to be Liverpool that compromise rather than the players.
Sort of, but I think I need to end this because I don't want to do this show forever. But one of the things because that's what the conversation is. Just one of the things I am conscious of though is, and I keep saying it at the minute, I'm not looking around the Premier League at the very least or European football and going, there's your Virgil van Dijk replacement. It looks to me like there's 3 or 4 lads who play off the right with left foot who are all going to be moving next summer, and I think that will be in Liverpool's mind as well. That might not happen 2 years down the line. If Kudus goes to Man United and then Mbeumo goes to Arsenal, he wouldn't go to Arsenal, but hypothetically because Saka's there. But hypothetically speaking, and then when you need to replace Salah, which you will do at some point, and the market's not quite as saturated. Your footballs are infinite, but there isn't the same obvious.
I think they look at it as a unit though. Like, you don't replace Ian Rush by getting Ian Rush. We replaced Ian Rush by completely rebuilding the way we attack. Instead of it being Paul Walsh, Kenny Dalglish, Molby through balls, we went, John Barnes is going to be the forefront of this attack and we're going to rely on crosses. And you don't replace Virgil van Dijk by getting him in. You go, we're going to have the best centre-back pairing in the league. So how do we do that? That's how you do that. Not easy. Salah's a bit different. You've got to have a pacey forward that delivers goals and assists.
Not least that you actually currently have the best centre-back partnership in the league, and Virgil van Dijk is in it. Anyway, thank you very much indeed to Sam Walkerdine, not Sean Walkerdine, Sean Rogers, Sam Walkerdine for doing the images, Andy Heaton for the sounds, Sean, Ian and John. That has been the Anfield Wrap this week, and there was much more in it than it certainly felt like there was going to be on Sunday night.